Welcome to Tiny Game Chronicles episode 36. My name is
Woo!
Marcus, and here with my good friend Michael, every other week we discuss games that are quick plays but epic journeys. It is great to see you today, Michael. How are you doing, my friend?
I am well, Marcus. Yeah, it's been a long day for me, but it's early day for you, or maybe not so early now, and late day for me. But I'm looking forward talking about the ILA.
Yes. I do have a question for you before we get started here, though.
Yes.
So, if you could become like an expert in one of these, which would it be? Skateboarding, snowboarding, or surfing?
Hmm. I have a very
I'm
close
assuming you're not an expert already in any of
No,
those
no,
three. Yeah,
no,
okay.
definitely not at my age. But if I would have it all over, I would perhaps. I just seriously loved living close to the ocean, back in South America and in South Africa. I think it's surfing for me all the way. I don't have the blonde hair, unfortunately. But I love the ocean. I love the waves. And that is what my choice would
Have you
be.
ever tried surfing before?
I have. I'm unfortunately it's like my platforming, right? I'm not very good at it. But I love just kind of being in the ocean and feeling that board under me. Yeah, I just wish I would have had more time. What about you, Marcus? Which are those
Well,
three speak to you?
I think maybe you're gonna guess that I would say snowboarding because
Hmm.
snow is.
Of course.
I've never once snowboarded, Michael. Skied downhill
What?
skied lots, but never once strapped on a
No
snowboard.
ways.
Yeah. Surfing is my answer too. I have tried
Wow.
it once,
Okay.
and it was really incredibly hard. We were
Yes.
traveling. Uh, this is years ago now. We were in Peru, and we took a surfing lesson like right in Lima,
Ah.
right on the beach in Lima, and I had a hell of a time just getting past the break. Like it was so hard. I was
Ah,
so
ah,
exhausted and tired. My goodness, I had a real true appreciation for like kind of the upper body strength
yeah,
required
absolutely.
to kind of paddle out there. Um, I didn't once get up on the board. Like
Oh,
actually,
wow.
Lindsay did. She made it
Yep.
up. She stood up
Nice.
briefly and rode a wave for just a little bit. But yeah, man, I would love to be able to get good at surfing. So that's my
Beautiful.
answer. Yeah.
Very good. Beautiful.
Well, before we get into today's game, Michael, ILA, a Frosty Glide, just wanted to mention our previous episode for the game Goodnight Universe. So this is a game by the folks at Nice Dream. It used this unique
Hmm.
camera as a controller thing that I didn't take advantage of, and that was,
The
my fault.
downfall.
Yeah, a
Exactly.
downfall for me. Yeah. So I think like this
Uh,
game didn't quite hit the highs of before your eyes. The a few of the devs' previous game,
hmm.
but there's something to like here. Just don't do what I did, and play the game as intended.
Exactly. Yeah, same here, Marcus. The fact that so much goes missing if you think of just taking the easy way out. Play as intended. Use the camera also just to control and experience the game in a very different way. I think it's pretty unique because not many games kind of offer this functionality. Yeah, and if you're going to play it, then please do it that way. It's definitely worthwhile just because of the experience. Yeah.
Okay, Michael, let's get into our game today. Ela, a Frosty Glide. So Ela released on basically everything: PS5, Xbox Series S and X, Switch, and PC on October 20th, 2025. It was developed by a Spanish studio by the name of Magic Rain Studios, published by First Break Labs. The Steam description reads: set foot on a magical island and explore a whimsical small open world as Ela, a spirited young witch in training searching for her lost kitty Coco. The gameplay is basically a 3D collect-a-thon style platformer. There's no combat. You're doing a lot of exploration. The main, I guess, story hook of the game is your not story hook. The main hook of the game is Ila's skate broom, which she uses to fly and slide around the environment to explore. It's currently sitting at a 77 on OpenCritic. Only has a handful of reviews. I think generally it's thought of pretty favorable, and that locomotion traversal aspect of the game is often cited as a highlight. Michael, we start each of our conversations by asking ourselves 3 questions. What platform did you play it on? About how long did it take you to beat? And what are some high-level thoughts about the game?
So I would say that this game, and I'm glad that we now have the pronunciation right, which is ILA. So thank you.
They had it on the press kit the website for their press kit, Michael. I was so happy to know it, to get actual confirmation one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, Marcus, it's a short winter adventure about learning how to move well in tight spaces. if that makes sense. If I were to give it an alternative title, I would probably call it Learning to Live Without Coco, if that kind of makes sense, right? Because you are on the search for this specific cat, your cat. And the game is less about kind of these big plot turns, and it's really more about how you go about when you slip or when you fail, to choose to keep going, following, all the little hints that your cat has left behind, and maybe realizing, at least like I did, like, okay, but there is also something else about the story that I failed to pick up from the beginning. And I think that makes it, it adds another way to it, which unfortunately which we'll talk about as well, missed out from the beginning. I played this on Steam Deck, as well as PC. Unfortunately, I started the game pretty early, then left it for about 10 days before getting back to it. So I needed to start again, and I think I spent 7 hours, Marcus, which is, I think, more than twice as long as you did. Yeah.
Yeah, so I played on Steam Deck as well. Steam Deck verified, I'm pretty sure, right,
Yes,
Michael?
it is.
Yeah, so it plays really well in that handheld mode. It did take me just a shade over 3 hours to beat. Didn't do everything by like any means, but I actually kind of got to the end, and I wasn't expecting that I was like, oh, this is the end of the game here. I hadn't realized. I probably would have explored a little bit more and took a little bit more time had I realized. High level thoughts. This game, I think, is it is that collect-a-thon style platformer. So there are a lot of collectibles that we're going to get into in a little bit. And that was really the driving force for me in this game, is to explore and collect these things that you'd find on the ground, or these coins, and that you could use to purchase outfits. And like, that was the driving force for me. There is a narrative here. I was kind of like you. I didn't really fully clue into the narrative until much later in the game. But that wasn't really, it didn't drive my interest in continuing. I think it was more just exploring the world, being able to move along, and traverse these different environments, and find out what to do next. And that was enjoyable to me, regardless of the story that was taking place. Okay, Michael, just a brief reminder for listeners. Okay, Michael, just a brief reminder for listeners about how we talk about games on Tiny Game Chronicles. We like to identify 3 things that we think particularly stood out about a game, and then do a deeper dive discussion on each of those 3 things. And no spoilers. So we almost all the time try to avoid spoilers. We'll do so here, Michael. There is some story, as we've mentioned. Both of us kind of missed a lot of the story as we were going along, so I don't think it'll be too tough to avoid any story spoilers in this game. And so if you haven't played ILA, you are safe to listen. Okay, Michael, let's move on to standout items in ILA, A Frosty Glide. The first one, and I think like I said right from the very beginning, the hook of the game is ILA's skate broom. How did you find skating around traversing the environments using ILA's skate broom?
I actually quite enjoyed it. It was definitely a game that invited you to move and explore, and obviously platforming elements were prevalent and present. But as you'll discover, there are some powers, no, that you need to discover that will actually have an effect, how your skate broom behaves, the distance it can travel, and things like that. So it makes what seems first to be unapproachable approachable later in the game. And it's more than just a tool to get from A to B. It's like, I don't know, Ela and the skate broom becoming kind of one, right? So I think what I really appreciated about the game was kind of going through the motions, also of stumbling, of failing. And yeah, for me, it was a story about, I think, developing your intentionality to cross places that were unacceptable or not passable at the beginning, and it demanded like way more focus and intention to make kind of your progress feel meaningful, because you were following Coco and you collected a lot of things, or were able to collect a lot of things that were maybe important to Coco on the one extent, where you see, well, Coco has been here, be it kind of paw prints that you saw, or some leftovers that Coco left behind, without going into too many spoilers. And the nice thing is that it kind of never felt random, but you discovered, right, what routes to take to go into the next level. So I did not think that her skate broom was just a traversal gimmick, but it
Mm,
became an integral part of developing the story, or opening up the story. Marcus, how was it for
interesting.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely didn't take any like real narrative
Mm.
significance to the skate broom. It except we probably should have said right off the top, like you when you're navigating the world, Michael had, suggested that you can get these upgrades to your broom, and basically
Mm.
it just gives you like an extra burst. And so you can
Exactly.
collect these I don't know, crystals. Were they
Yeah.
what are they? Like little crystal
Stars,
stars, something that
stars,
allow
coins, whatever.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
something that
Mm.
allows you to, and I think you can get up to a maximum of 5 of them.
Yeah.
So you get
Correct.
these extra boosts when you're in the air. And you also have a dash option. And so when it works, it actually works quite well. But I think that one definite frustration that I had is like
Hmm.
fighting with the camera when you're
I'm so with
moving.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, like there were times when you can always control the camera as you can with like, a 3D platformer. You've got the one stick that controls the camera, but there are definitely times where the camera is moving for you.
Yep.
And it didn't always seem to be moving in the direction I wanted it to be, or that
Yep.
made sense to be. And so you end up like fighting the camera quite regularly in this game. There are definitely times when you get up into a certain corner and you're trying to spin the camera around, and it wouldn't let you spin it in the way that you wanted to be able to see from behind your character. So that was a huge, I think, like when the escape room worked and the traversal worked, it worked pretty good. But there
Hmm.
were way too many times where it
Rough moments.
wasn't working good. Very clunky, I think, is a good way to
Totally.
phrase it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that I wasn't able to see the route that I wanted to follow, just because that's why I mentioned at the beginning, tight corners, right? It felt like I was stuck in a tight corner and couldn't get out of it,
Hmm.
and on more than one occasion. So I think that made it, yeah, I would say, a little bit frustrating here and there. Also, when it seemed like it wanted you to go in just one specific direction, but you had a very different intention.
Yeah,
But
and
totally
like
with you,
so
Marcus.
rough
Yeah.
edges. This game has a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of rough edges to it in
Yeah.
terms of like that camera piece.
Yeah.
The other thing, maybe a criticism I would levy towards the escape room was there are a few sections where you're sliding. It's almost like a
Mm-hmm.
race sort of
Mm-hmm.
section. That I think has the potential to feel good. It didn't feel good to me. I felt like I was not really in control in the way
100%.
that I should have felt. Um, I want to give the devs a bit of grace here. This is their first game,
Mm.
and but I don't think it always felt good, especially those sliding sections, these kind of racing downhill sections on your skate broom. I haven't played Sword of the Sea, but it reminds me of that sort of a traversal
Mm.
system in those moments where you're sliding down um, these slopes, really,
Correct.
and it because the camera is whipping around in maybe different orientations than you think, and there are coins that you can collect on the way down the slope, but it's hard. I found it really hard to pick the right line so that I could actually uh pick up the coins that are on the track for me. I
And
don't
I
know,
think,
it didn't feel
yeah, yeah.
great.
And I think you've mentioned it so here in our household, my wife is a big Formula One fan, and so this is something that we watch probably starting in March again every second weekend or so, whenever Formula One is happening. And if you talk to experienced drivers, they always talk about the ideal line
Mm,
they need to drive in order to get the most, out of their car with regards to speed, with regards to being and keeping the car on the track. And if I translate this to ILA, I kind of felt that the coins that were on these slopes were always an indication of what the ideal line should be for you to have a successful glide, if that makes sense. Marcus, and like you, I just kept missing them, and it never felt like I had, I don't know, a sense of control, regardless how I use my controller, to follow an ideal path or ideal line down these slopes, right? And that is also a thing that, yeah, made it kind of difficult to enjoy. And I'm not sure how often. I don't think that you failed as often as I did, but man, I failed those jumps just basically because I think I never really found that ideal line where I had that good speed. Then obviously you need to control your boosts, no?
mhm.
That you had as well in order to make on your skate broom in order to make that jump successfully. It felt like we needed to do, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 precisely timed jumps
Mhm.
in order for you to reach the other side. And it never felt like you in the tunnel, you in the flow, right?
Yeah. I think, like, to summarize, I think, like, for me, the traversal, when it worked really well, but there
Mm.
was too many times that it didn't feel great, which
Mm.
kinda sucked. Because I think it's like it had the potential to work quite well, but it didn't always hit the mark I think they were going for.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm with you.
yeah, yeah. Okay, Michael, let's move on to standout item number 2, and that is, this is a collect-a-thon style platformer, so there are a lot of collectibles in this game. I wanna maybe try to go down the list. There are treasure chests that you can
Yep,
get, which sometimes they might have like items of clothing that you can collect. You can also purchase items of clothing at
correct.
various points. What else was there? There were like orbs, there are letters, there are fish bones, there were glasses, there were lots of
Sometimes they're
different
coins, gold
coins as
coins.
well. Of
Yeah,
course, lots of
yeah,
coins all over. So there's lots of things to collect and explore, and that was for these types of games, Michael, this is something that really, like I said, in the high level thoughts, this is what drives me forward. I'm just like
yeah.
exploring, kind
Collecting.
of collecting
I
stuff.
am with you.
Um, so for the most part, I think that it worked for me. I'm curious how you found the collectibles in the game.
I think what I appreciated, I think more games should do this, is that it would always told you how many collectibles were available,
That's
right?
great. Yep,
So
it
one
did.
of
Yep.
6, I don't know, one of 30, one of 20. And that kind of gave you an indication, aha, I think there's nothing worse, first of all, not knowing how many there are, and then, I don't know, trying to find more collectibles via a chapter select or something like that. I think if you really have a scope, with regards to, okay, what is the amount of collectibles involved. What does that hoarding look like? Then I think that gives you a good idea with regards to what to look for. Um, what I really appreciated about these collectibles, and it took me a while, Marcus, is they were not just shiny things on a checklist, right? That you needed to collect and then move on to the next phase. But if you took a little moment, and here I seriously would invite listeners who want to play this game just to take a moment. These are small invitations to take a closer look on the different corners of this island, right? That we're on, because they hold echoes of something that was lost without kind of giving you this long explanation, what it is that you've picked up. But they're small little echoes, right? Small little teasers of um, world building. If that, I think
Yeah,
that's
bits
the
of narrative,
the best
right?
way. It's a narrative,
Not
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like specifically like really the letters.
Yep.
Um, there are letters that are collectible letters, but there's also like letters posted on buildings and stuff like that
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
read and get a little bit more sense of the world
Yeah.
that Ela is inhabiting. And but also these letters that have been left for her or other people to kind of again flesh out the narrative that you're experiencing here. So I'm not the I feel like I'm more again talking more negative about this game than I actually felt about it, but like I'm not the
Mhm.
biggest fan of games that use letters. I feel like maybe I've even talked about this before on the show, but
We've had other games like Europa, if you remember.
you're
No?
right. That
Yeah.
were I don't like narratives that are told to
Yeah.
us in that way because
Yeah.
I don't tend to um I don't know. I'm more like focused on where's the next thing I need to collect rather than like really
These long.
stopping down and reading a
Yeah.
letter and fully and putting that letter into context with the other letter that I had read previously. And like I click on it, I scan it quickly, and then I just move on to the next, and I don't really give it all that
Mm.
much thought. That's probably a me issue more than anything else. But you know, they did use collectibles as a means for conveying narrative because you're not actually there are a few, let's call them characters, I guess, in the game, but there's
Mm.
no other like people that you're
Mm.
interacting with in the game to drive narrative that way. Like you're
Correct.
not having conversations with other characters in the game.
Correct.
It's really just Ela more or less by herself in this game,
Correct.
in this world going around. So, they use these letters that are left behind primarily to tell a narrative.
Yeah, and these are kind of, I think this is what I appreciate is these are like tiny anchors, just to give the story a little bit of a tone and context, no? As you mentioned. And I think they fill out a world that otherwise feels devoid of life, not necessarily devoid of color, but
Hmm.
definitely like devoid of life.
There's not
Um,
people walking around the world, right?
exactly,
It's just
exactly.
basically just Ela exploring it by herself,
Yeah,
more or
yeah, yeah.
less.
Um, and I think it prods you, and this is really what I appreciate, and I think this is what the developers got right. It is not a question of hoarding. It's like this gentle kind of searching, if that actually makes sense, right? Which for me made all the difference, right? If you, I don't know, if you have 4 of 6 letters, you kind of know it's totally okay to search for the other two rather than just hoarding whatever you find,
Right.
right? And they did this extremely well through its subtlety, if that
Mm.
makes sense, Marcus.
Mm.
Mhm.
Well, let's move on to our third standout, Michael. And this game, by all accounts, I think it mentions it in on the Steam page. Like they self-describe this game as a cozy game. A lot of reviewers kind of
Yes.
identify this as a cozy game. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the game's coziness and what about that coziness really vibed with us or didn't. So I want to let
Hmm.
Michael go because I think like Michael, we've talked a little offline about this, and Michael isn't always the biggest fan, let's say, about playing cozy games. So go for it,
Yes.
Michael. How did the coziness in Ela kind of like land with you?
Yeah, I think it was an interesting discussion just because I'm discovering a little bit also about myself and my likes and dislikes. So I am the first to say that coziness doesn't speak to me directly. And I'm not saying that I'm um, a person who would never pick up a cozy game. I think there are circumstances, and obviously through my relationship with you, Marcus, no, this is something that deserves a second look. Um, but per se, I'm not the Animal Crossing type of gamer, right? Where by definition, and my definition of a cozy game is pretty broad, just because so many games, in my perspective, fall under the term cozy, where you, Marcus, might define it way narrower than I do, right?
Mhm.
So my definition of a cozy game, if there is a low pressure, um, and the game creates like a feel good space, yeah, where the world is kind, the colors are soft, failure does not really cost you anything, and the story mostly wraps up in kind of simple soothing tasks, that kind of stay emotionally safe, and mentally, for me at least, mentally idle, which for me is like, okay, if my brain is not switching on, if I'm kind of just too much in this kind of collection, decorating, rinse and repeat flow. And I don't mean that in any derogative way, although it might sound so. Um, it is just that intellectually, I'm just switched off. It's perhaps one of the reasons why I can't connect that well with Nintendo games per se. I mean, there are exceptions. No, Fire Emblem could be one of those exceptions, just because it has a darker tone, even though the characters are still good looking. Zelda could also be something like that, where I can say, yeah, it has a darker tone. It needs a darker tone for me. But when the protagonists are too clean cut, too friendly, when the heroes have no blemishes, when the villains or monsters look more like toys, kind of never leaving that cozy, comfortable space, whenever they take no emotional risk. Yeah, Marcus, unfortunately, that's exactly when I switch off. When I feel that there is no psychological stakes, there's no ambiguity, there's no abrasion. Um, I need a little bit of darkness. I need a little bit of I don't know, a bleak outlook on things. Um, yeah,
And
and I
so
think that.
and I think like that's a commentary on maybe your feelings on Ela, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
this is pretty cozy. There is, like we both have said, and we're gonna avoid the details of it, but there is
Mm,
actually a bit, maybe more depth to the
correct.
narrative, to maybe something to latch onto that we kind of both missed for
Yep.
various reasons until more like right towards the end of the game. But yeah, like it's an interesting perspective, and I think like we had this conversation offline, and I don't think, we've been doing this now for, we're coming up on a year and a half, Michael, and I'm not
Mm,
sure that I appreciated your perspective on this cozy aesthetic, cozy
mm,
gameplay. Because I wouldn't consider myself like a gamer that gravitates towards cozy games, but I don't think that I had, or I find that coziness feature
mm,
maybe as off-putting, at least initially, as you might, right? And for me, the aesthetic, the presentation, the art style, kind of the colors, the low stakes, I can put like, I could take or leave that. Like it's
mm,
not something that like pulls me in, but it also
mm.
isn't something that pushes me away. As long as that gameplay hook is
Yep.
appealing to me in some way. And um I enjoy these collectathon style games. Like I think back to Mario 64.
Mm,
This I remember very much, and this is something that a game like this owes its almost existence to, right? Like
yeah.
that was one of the, if not the kind of first game to do this style of gameplay. And that I look back on my Mario 64 experience, back in the mid to late 90s fondly. Like that was fun for me, and I could care less about the story. Like it was just like running around, exploring, collecting things, and getting to the next area and
You
all,
see, in
all the
that
way to the end. Yeah.
I think that explains, Marcus, also the gap that I have when it comes to particular games. Now we spoke, or at least you spoke, in a solo episode on Kabuto Park, if you remember, right?
Hmm.
Now, just the fact that on the cover is this kind of girl in between beautiful yellow flowers chasing a butterfly is like,
Yep.
I immediately say, you
Yeah.
know what, life ain't like that. It's like totally off-putting to me, and then I miss aspects that could really be interesting. And Kabuto Park is definitely a game that is worth looking at. Where in my upbringing, in my development of games, I never gave a second chance because I was so anti kind of that outlook on the world. And part of it's my own life experience. But then I think it's important, at least I'm realizing it, that just that viewpoint has caused me to have a big gap in my gaming, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah. So thank you for that.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
I think that there's nothing wrong with being maybe off-put about certain um, aesthetics or
hmm,
gameplay mechanics. I mean, we all have every gamer has this sort of there are things that they like and they dislike.
hmm.
Um, I but I do think that perhaps I don't know. This sounds like lecturing, and it really
No,
isn't
no,
intended as much. But I
I
think like
know.
there are definitely cozy games that you could get down with. Like we talked about, I did another solo episode at Kabuto Park. Maybe I think like that's kind
Hmm.
of a 50-50 for you, Michael. But I do think that Henry Halfhead is one that you actually would really dig. But that initial kind of like, not so interested in that one. And you were very diplomatic about it, and I was like, okay, no problem. I'll just do a solo episode. But yeah, in retrospect, and after having played it, I do think that like that game you
Clip.
would like, and
Hmm.
you would definitely click with it, in spite of the cozy vibes it gives off, if that makes sense. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, and the other aspect is obviously the narrative. Now, something that we discovered between us is that for me, narrative is like such an essential component of me enjoying a game.
hmm,
Like a game will never get, I don't know, a 9 out of 10. If there is no narrative, it might get an 8.5.
right,
But for you, like, okay, narrative, it's nice, but not necessarily essential, right? It can be a decoration that
hmm,
supports game mechanics that you truly enjoy. And that is, again, an aspect that I appreciate about you, but something that we have very different
very
feelings
differ.
about.
So like
Yeah, yeah.
my maybe this is well, maybe I'll transition into the overall thoughts in a moment here. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think like there is an aspect of it. If there's a reason I didn't totally vibe with ILA, it wasn't because of the very sweet and
Mm,
narrative that was there that I appreciated or missed. Like
mm,
it had very little to do with what my
mm.
if I'm knocking ILA, it was really that gameplay frustration with the camera, you
Totally.
know, the kind of the gliding not always feeling great, right?
Mm.
The narrative could have been great. It could have, but that wouldn't have necessarily changed my opinion that much of the game, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah, totally.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, Michael. Well, we unfortunately didn't get any community standouts for this, so we'll pass that. But I did want to just at least bring it up because we're more than happy to read out, and we'd love to be able to share community standouts of the games that we play. So if you do play the game, you don't have to play it with us, but if you played the game before, hop into our Discord. Um, Michael will put a call out for standouts, and we will read out like any standouts you might have for the game we're talking about on the show. So,
Hmm.
okay, Michael, we're going to wrap up our discussion on ILA here. Do we recommend the game? And if so, to whom?
So I'll surprise you. I'm going to say yes.
Mm,
I will definitely recommend this game, even though we've had some issues with camera. If we summarize that, because I think that the movement system that we discussed, I think, is really great. It's a short game, The game is a wonderful collect-a-thon in I think the most gentle of ways that it pushes you to collect and continue collecting. And I think that if you are a cozy game lover, this will be definitely up your alley. But there is more depth and there is an emotional weight that this game has, which at the beginning is not apparent, and it deserves a deeper look. The game has a story to tell. Unfortunately, the way that I usually approach games like this put off my narrative antenna. I would encourage you to keep your narrative antenna on, and yeah, and enjoy what this game has to tell. It's way more than just, searching for your lost cat. Coco. Marcus, do you recommend it?
I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Michael. Like I feel like I've been kind of negative on this game, but I would recommend this game. Just don't go in with the expectation that this is going to be revolutionary or this is not Mario Odyssey level of 3D platformer, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's got some rough edges. It's got some frustrating camera controls at time. I don't think the sliding feels the great, but it is fun to explore this little world that they've created here. And if you like, these 3D collect-a-thon style platformers, I think that you should give this one a shot. Like there is a lot to actually like here, despite kind of these criticisms that we might have about the game. I think, again, short. What do you have to lose? It's like 3 hours. So,
Exactly.
or maybe 7 if you have to restart the game and have it for. But it's not that long a game, and I probably got. I want to say, could have mentioned it in the collectibles section, like 50% of the collectibles.
Yeah.
So there was still lots to kind of go back to if you want to 100% it all and collect everything that you can in the environment. Maybe a little more than 50% of things. Part of that was, like I said, I didn't realize I was getting to the end, and I actually did. So I probably would have went and explored a little bit more had I realized I was coming up to the end. But yeah, it's if you like these types of games, you could do a lot worse than ILA of Frosty Glide. So I think it's a good first effort from the team, and I'd like to see they are working. I was checking on their website when I was putting together the show notes, and they've got another game that they're in the process of developing right now that they've already got up on their site. I can't remember the name of it, but Magic Rain Studios they're working on something else, which I think is incorporating this movement that they I guess started with ILA. So it'll be kind of like that gliding, sliding, flying movement that they've started. So
I'm all for supporting some European studios. I think they definitely need some love. And I'm looking forward seeing more of the games that they have on offer. And I'm hoping that maybe in about 3-4 years' time, I would choose one of their games to be on my Fantasy Critic League, right? So
yep, that's right. Okay, Michael, that's it for episode 36. A little bit of housekeeping before we wrap things up here. Of course, we would really appreciate it if you shared, liked, subscribed, and left us a 5-star review wherever you happen to be listening. Aside from that, you can follow the show on Blue Sky at Tiny Game Chronicles. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Marcus O'Neill 79. You can also find me on 2 other podcasts that I do. Hype Factor, which is the aforementioned Fantasy Critic, podcast that I do with my good friend John. It's a monthly show. That sounds interesting. We'd be happy for you to check that out. Fantasy Critic is just kind of underway for the year here, so we've gotten a few more listeners than we had in the past. So that's been great to have more people jump on. And then our other show, Brothers from Another Mothership. Michael is on our most recent episode. We just recorded our newest episode. It should be coming out in a few days here, so it may even be out by the time you're listening to this. So you can check that one out too. It's me and 3 other friends get together and argue mostly about video games. So it's been a lot of fun to do. It's a fun one to do. Michael, where can people find you?
So you can also find me on Blue Sky under Drellish, DRELLESH, as well as on our Discord. And the link to our Discord community will be in the show notes. I'm always happy for the one or other person to join us. And we've had another person recently join us as well. So you're welcome to be part of our tiny community where we have lots of recommendations on tiny games and maybe some not so tiny games because we don't know whether there will be or not in the future. But lots of infos to be had there, and I think a very healthy community to be involved in.
Absolutely. And then when you're on there, then you can get in there and recommend tiny games for us to play on the show. Yes, we always love
Absolutely.
getting those recommendations. And, just to mention, we are also on YouTube, Michael. There are episodes go up there, mostly unedited. So if you want to see an almost unedited episode of Michael and myself discussing our game, you can check us out there. We also have some shorts. We do at least one per episode. So I guess the last thing we need to do, Michael, is introduce our next game.
Dun, dun, dun.
So this game was developed by Glee Cheese Studio and published by Plug-in Digital. It is a rhythm game set against a 70s backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
This game, we're not going to say who, but we may have a special guest joining us for this one.
Yep.
And the name, Michael, of this game is
A Musical Story.
A Musical Story. So this is one that came out a few years ago now. I don't have it in front of me. I think it's 2022. So I just picked it up last night. Haven't started it yet. Tells the story of a band in the 70s, and I think it's a wordless narrative, rhythm mechanics. It's something we haven't really done on the show before. So I'm actually kind of keen to check this one out, Michael.
So the first thing that comes to mind if I think of the 70s is kind of, some of the rock bands that were available.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of Jimi Hendrix. I'm thinking of Led Zeppelin. And I'm kind of hoping to get a little bit of that feel. I'm hoping the game is going to go that way. But our special guest, who might or might not join us, also is part of a group, a band, and I think that's why we'll also get some special insight, I think, in the musical aspect, I think, of the game. So other than that, this person also adores indies, so he's the right guest to have on.
That's right. That's right.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Like I said, it's one that it's a type of game, and we like to branch out as much as we can on Tiny Game Chronicles. So we haven't really played. I don't think we played any sort of rhythm game of anything, right?
It'll be the first time.
That'll be the first time. So yeah, hopefully it's not too hard.
Let's see.
We'll see. We'll give it a shot. Okay, Michael, I think that's everything for us today. So I will just wrap things up by saying thank you for listening, and we will be back in 2 weeks with A Musical Story.
See you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.